Thank you very much for inviting OECD to speak at this important scientific and practical conference. We are meeting at an important time as in Kazakhstan, as in many OECD countries, the challenge of adopting CCUS while transforming the current energy system is daunting. As Johannes Steinbach-Madsen from the EU delegation has mentioned, it is very much work in progress. And as in OECD countries, this technology will not be a silver bullet. It will be a bridge technology. It will not be a substitute, and it will have to be implemented with other efforts, notably coal phase out and related fossil fuel subsidy reforms. And we know that it is not a simple task, easier said than done, as we all know, particularly with the recent events in Kazakhstan. We know as well that right now, coal plus CCS is still far more expensive than renewable, and not to mention that there are some losses in energy efficiencies when using CCS with on a CFP, for instance. But that said, as it was mentioned by Olcas Agabekov from the Ministry of Ecology, Geology and Natural Resources, the model, the least cost pathway model that have been developed by our colleagues from GIZ towards carbon neutrality last year are very clear. There will be 2.9 million tons of CO2 that will have to be captured per year between 2022 and 2040. And by 2040, it would mean an installed capacity of about 1.5 times the current worldwide operating capacity. And I think my colleague from the IEA will get back to that. But we all know that to put our energy system on track for this net zero target, CCUS will be essential, particularly for industries, alongside efforts on energy efficiency and a shift to hybrid fuel. But that said, Kazakhstan is not alone to try and seize these opportunities worldwide. And how can Kazakhstan, in a nutshell, and where can Kazakhstan compete on a global scale to attract those pilot projects to apply this technology? And I think it's fundamental to go back to some of the basics. In the first instances, what is clear is that the government, the private sector will have to partner, contract, and procure those first CCUS projects. And Stefano mentioned already some mechanism. Today, the CCUS development has largely been undertaken by major oil and gas companies that are already present in Kazakhstan. This needs no explanation given their carbon footprint reduction strategy, but as well their technology stack and their experience in managing complex technical projects as they've been doing in the country. So furthering this cooperation with the IOC will be essential, and that goes along the improvement of the overall investment climate, alongside having a whole of government approach to some policies underpinning local development, local content, support to research and development and demonstration projects. I mean, those challenges are very well known. I think they've been extensively documented, including by the OECD. We published an OECD Innovation Policy Review of Kazakhstan, which contains a lot of recommendations that are fit for purpose in the context of CCUS application. So I won't dwell too much on this, just to again remind us all that those reforms are more pressing than ever. And the second element to unleash these emerging industries in the absence of a global convergence on carbon pricing for some times, and as well the low level of carbon prices, as we know in Kazakhstan, or even the low liquidity in the ETS system, there will be a need to design a country-specific transition financing and risk-sharing scheme, and to work with markets and not against those markets. So finding this business model for CCUS is, again, very much work in progress. It could entail some tax credit like the 45Q in the US, which give visibility on price for investing in CCS. It could be encounter on the demand side, better use of public procurement. Stefano mentioned that already, or those new tools, this carbon contract for difference that are piloted in the EU, particularly in Germany and in France. And hopefully over the longer term, those economic reform, the other measures to unlock the potential for market mechanism to deliver CCUS at cost and effectively can be considered. And Kazakhstan could already start building capacity on those effective mechanisms. Stefano mentioned some of them. To recall a few obligations for CCS certificates, performance standards with CCS certificates, or even tradable tax credit, as it was mentioned. The second area is really around access to data and data on storage potential. It's, as in many countries around the world, this potential is still uncertain. So the issue of building capacity in Kazakhstan is critical, capacity to undertake site-specific appraisal studies to substantial the initial potential with seismic data gathering, well drilling, testing, or reservoir performance modeling, to carry out those FEED studies, those feasibility and front-end engineering design studies to evaluate specific infrastructure that will be required to collect, transport, and store CO2 from multiple sources. It's not just a CCUS unit in isolation that has to be considered. It's a whole system thinking that needs to be put in place. And this holds true as well for capacity to conform with ISO 27914 standards. The third area I want to touch upon is really around making sure that Kazakhstan regulatory framework is competitive to attract those CCUS demonstration projects. And it would have to bring at least three main elements on, first, this administrative process to apply, obtain, and get approval for those processes. There's no single or integrated framework as yet in Kazakhstan. There's a good foundation is the fact that CCUS or CCS has been included in the green taxonomy, but much more work will need to be done to translate this into a comprehensive framework across all aspects of the project in terms of design, the capture, the storage, the closure, the monitoring, and as well the liability regime for potential accidental release of stored CO2. The second element is really, as included in the new Eco Code, the ability to provide for the appropriate seating of those projects with the use of SCA and EIA as it is planned in the new environmental code and currently being piloted, but not yet for those CCUS projects. And the third element is really about making sure that those projects secure social acceptance with meaningful and effective stakeholder consultation. And in this context, Kazakhstan is not starting from nowhere. Kazakhstan is party to the UNEC Aarhus Convention on Access to Information, but continuing those efforts to remove inconsistency between the national legislation and the obligation arising for this, from this convention is even more pressing than before. So to close, as you can see, establishing an integrated investment, regulatory, and socially accepted framework for CCUS project is quite a tall order. As in many countries around the world, again, we're still in an experimental phase. It will be experimental, it will be urgent, and it will require a balancing act with many other competing priorities that Kazakhstan has as it unveils its strategy and implements its strategy towards carbon neutrality within a mix of portfolio of mitigation adaptation solution. And no one has ever done it before, even within the OECD membership. There's no established best practices, there's no blueprint for success, but we're really keen to continue to exchange. So I really welcome this new platform under the Green Bridge Partnership Program and IGTIC. And as it was mentioned, we are really pleased to, as OECD, to have this new tool, this sustainable infrastructure program in Asia. It's a 4-year initiative that is starting, funded by Germany. And it will be really about helping Kazakhstan build capacity to develop sustainable infrastructure, and particularly in the area of CCUS, and why not contribute to the formulation of a CCUS roadmap. So I'll leave it here, and thank you again for your attention.